What's going on, Detroit Lions fans? Hey, it's us, the real Detroit Lions fans, myself, Real, and Andrew. So today we are going to be doing our very first mock draft of the season. And as you can see here, it's a 12-man mock draft. But what you can't see is that it's a PPR, which is pretty standard now, and it's standard scoring. And this is not an IDP league. We don't really play IDP leagues, but we could if you guys want to and see if we could get into that. That'd be cool. But yeah, the draft's going to start in about 20 seconds. And as you can see, there's a lot of people that are going to be auto picking. And that's typical when you start this early doing your mock drafts. And honestly, I'm not too upset about it because, I mean, to be honest with you, the draft board usually falls exactly where the draft, you know, how the draft board is usually how it falls. So I'm not too upset about it. Andrew, are you tripping out that there's a lot of auto picks in here?
No, I mean, there's some people that go a little bit earlier or later, depending on player preference. But pretty much each round is pretty standard up until later on, which, people are just going to grab who they want later on. So I'm fine with it.
Absolutely. So coming up on our pick real quick. So we're going to start off with the 12th pick, and obviously that means we're going to have the first pick in round 2. So we've talked about draft strategies a little bit, but we haven't talked about it live or in a video. And the way that we both have talked about going about this year's draft is that we need running backs early on. It's very essential that you get running backs. But here in the 12th spot, you're usually stuck in between like a hard place and a rock because they're the great receivers that you don't want to pass up on. And then at the same time, there are those second tier running backs. And here we are, our team's on the clock right now. Andrew, we got Julio Jones here. He's obviously a top tier receiver. But then we have these, kind of second tier running backs over here. We obviously didn't get our pick of the litter with the first tier where it's Christian McCaffrey, Kamara, Saquon, Zeke, all those guys. What would you go here?
Yeah, so with the research I found, you have to go running back early because the difference between the running backs right now and the running backs in 2 rounds is pretty significant compared to the wide receivers. So right here, I'm 100% taking 2 running backs to just completely overhaul my starting lineup and then get those wide receivers later on. So in my opinion, I'm taking Cook and Chubb right here.
All right. I happen to agree with you right now. And it's hard to pass up on a talent like Julio Jones. He's going to get the targets. If he's healthy, he's going to be a beast. But I'm with you. We have to go Dalvin Cook right here because right now he's the best guy on the board. He's the most workhorse on the board. But tell me, why are you passing up on Austin Eckler and a guy like Joe Mixon, guys that in a PPR league might get a lot of picks? Or not picks, receptions, I should say.
So I had Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler last year, and they both played phenomenal. I did my research, and it's just hard for me to pass up on Nick Chubb in this position when he ran for 1,500 yards last year with a crap offense. And I know people are like, well, Kareem Hunt played the last 8 games, and he's going to steal the targets. The dude still ran for 1,500 yards. As to where Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler, they're playing with rookie quarterbacks. You don't know necessarily what you're going to get in that situation. So I'd rather go with the Browns offense that's just loaded with talent, and Chubb's just going to be able to do his thing. He's going to be able to run the ball, and he's not going to have as many stacked boxes. So what do you think?
I agree. I think here Nick Chubb has the highest floor because we know what his quarterback situation is going to look like. We kind of know what his offense is going to look like, and there's talent all around that offense. So that opponents defenses, they're not just going to stack the box like they might against Austin Eckler and Joe Mixon. So I'm going to go with Nick Chubb here as well. And now we have 2 solid running backs going into our next batch of picks, and I'm very comfortable with them. I'm very, very happy with these 2 running backs. Dalvin Cook is a monster. He's a monster when he's healthy, and Nick Chubb has shown he bursted on the scene last season, and he's shown that he could be a weapon that is, that can be that could be the core of a championship team is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he actually carried one of my teams to championship. I mean, the dude was just phenomenal down the stretch. And I know some people have Mixon and Eckler ranked higher, especially in PPR leagues, but Mixon's been in the league for a couple of years, and he's off and on good. I personally build my team around consistency, and these two running backs are a lot more consistent. So
yeah, the one thing that you brought up that does scare me about Nick Chubb is the fact that Kareem Hunt is there, and he wasn't there in the beginning half of 2019, so we don't know how much they're going to utilize him in 2020. So we'll see, but I don't see they don't really have a reason to stop using Chubb. So to me, I think it's a good deal.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple other teams, teams like the Broncos. They brought in Melvin Gordon, and everybody is drafting Gordon super high. But what they're lacking to understand is that Gordon lost his job to Eckler, and Gordon overall, his yards per carry are not that great as to where Eckler shines. So what does that say about Gordon? They're in the same system, and Eckler was a monster compared to how Gordon performed. So sometimes you gotta really look at the backfield and see who's actually going to be getting the targets, who's going to be getting the carries. Those red zone targets and carries, those are the most crucial, because that's 6 points if they get the touchdown. So I just think there's a lower risk, and like you said, it's a higher floor. You don't have to worry as much.
Damn, see, I was really hoping we'd get Allen Robinson in this situation. And right now, see, we're in a tough situation because Deebo Samuel broke his foot.
Honestly, this is a pretty easy one for me, man. So I don't even need to look who's lower. I personally am looking at James Conner, and I am 100% taking him. He has been consistent throughout every game he started. Yes, he was injured last year, but so was Big Ben. You bring in Big Ben again, even if he performs at 80%, James Conner is that workhorse running back, and he was consistently getting 15 points. So I would take James Conner here. I have 3 amazing running backs, and then we can go ahead and either pick our tight end or get one of the top receivers, in this area.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go with what you're saying here. I appreciate the commentary on James Conner. He has been a beast. He's a good guy right here.
Yeah, so. And you can also go with Todd Gurley. I like Atlanta's offense.
See,
I really like Todd
I'm starting to regret taking the 2 running backs because of Todd Gurley still being on the board, where we could have had possibly Dalvin Cook and Julio Jones. Why didn't it select the guy I chose? Okay, there you
go. so I get what you're saying, but when you go later on, you'll see why.
Well, just hold the pause button on that, because we're on the clock again, and right now we're in desperate need of a receiver. We got Chark on the board, Deebo Samuel, who just broke his foot. We got Calvin Ridley, and we got T.Y. Hilton. Well, obviously more as well. Boyd. Let's see who else we have. Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, who's now on Buffalo. All right. So there's one guy to me that stands out that I would definitely want. Let me see if you could guess him, Andrew. Who do you think?
T.Y. Hilton, baby.
Yes. Yes.
So when I look at T.Y. Hilton, what I'm seeing is Keenan Allen, his duplicate. Phil Rivers is over there. Phil Rivers finally has an amazing O-line, and they have Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. So that pressure that Rivers is used to getting playing with the Chargers is not going to be as quite there, because he actually has a good O-line in front of him. So with T.Y. Hilton, as long as T.Y. Hilton can stay healthy, he can easily be a top 10 wide receiver. He's speedy. He's really good at getting in between coverages, and he catches like everything his way. If you guys don't have short-term memory, then you know that T.Y. Hilton, when he had a good quarterback, was a top 10 wide receiver. So the ceiling is very high with him, and I think he's going to have a good year with Rivers throwing the ball.
Yes, sir. I completely agree. When Andrew Luck was healthy, I don't know why this is not clicking where I want it to click, but it doesn't matter. When Andrew Luck was healthy, T.Y. Hilton was a top 10 receiver fantasy-wise, and that's not even questionable. And now that Phillip Rivers is there, that Phillip Rivers is not afraid to sling the ball, and I love that in a quarterback. So, you know what? With this team, even though now that I'm looking at it, I kind of wish we took Julio Jones and then got Todd Gurley as our second running back, it's okay. I'm very happy with Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, James Conner, and T.Y. Hilton. That is a great core 4 of the team right there. And now, are you looking for another receiver at this point, Andrew? Or are you looking at tight ends maybe, or maybe even a quarterback this early?
So it all depends. The earliest I will ever take a quarterback is round 5, and that's if I score those elite players at wide receiver and running back. So over here, I'm looking at around Russell Wilson. I'm looking at the receivers, and I'm also looking at the tight ends. So I have been using Yahoo for my mock draft. So NFL, this is a little bit different in terms of their actual rankings, but it's fine. Right here, I'm actually looking at Jarvis Landry. I know a lot of people like Odell Beckham as the benefactor, but if you look at Landry in that offense, he has been a top 15 wide receiver PPR wise, like every single year. So right around here, I'm looking at Landry and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a top 3 tight end. He's the number 1 target. Well, he just went.
Wow.
Yeah,
and we get our pick of Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry.
So
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So you're claiming that you would get Jarvis Landry based on the amount of receptions that he gets targeted. Interesting.
The PPR king. If you look at his stats for the past 5 years, he's one of the most consistent wide receivers in PPR leagues. Very slept on.
Well, you can see it right here. I mean, games played, both of them 16. They both played 16 games, and Jarvis Landry is a little bit above Odell Beckham, surprisingly. Maybe you could tell me I'm picking name over production, but in this situation, I would have to differ with you and take Odell Beckham. His ceiling is just so much higher than Jarvis Landry, in my opinion. Just not even in my opinion, just objectively based off of what we've seen in his prior seasons, namely on the Giants. And if they can get him going, they won't even look Jarvis Landry's way. But I'll go with Jarvis Landry. It's a really close call, but we'll have to differ on that.
When you look at the consistency aspect of it, Jarvis Landry is much more consistent. Odell has the higher ceiling, but we haven't seen it in 3-4 years. So I just have to go with the consistency, because I don't want players that can put up 20 points 1 week and then 2 points, 3 points, 4 points for the next.
Hey, you're right, but we have to move on. So who are you getting right now? We are still on the board. Who is your pick?
So right here, one of the things that people sleep on every single year is that tight end position. It goes from top 5 to just complete drop off unless somehow you hit that sleeper that happens every year. And right here, I'm looking and I see Darren Waller. Darren Waller was such a key piece of that Oakland offense and a security blanket that I don't know why you would want to pass him and take a risk on a tight end when you can still get one of the top 5. So I personally would take Darren Waller. What are you looking at?
You know what? I'm going to just, follow suit with that because we really don't have time to debate. But I like Waller. He's a great player. He busted on the scene last year. Nobody knew his name. He was an ex-basketball player. That's all we knew about him. He was very tall, and he could be a red zone threat. And that's exactly what he was on the Oakland Raiders. And they used him like that in the red zone, and he got a ton of touchdowns, a ton of targets. I'm going to take him. And I'm very happy with the starting tight end now. I am very happy with our starting lineup so far. And, there's other picks that you can make an argument for. Hunter Henry, when he plays, when he's in the game, he's a beast. But, there's just that risk because you don't know how the quarterback's going to be. Whereas, the Raiders are sticking with Carr, so you kind of know exactly what you're getting out of that. And then same with, I saw another tight end down here, unless he was just taken.
Evan Engram.
Evan Engram, yes, Evan Engram. See, he's done really well as well, but I think last year was more of a slump year, or was he injured? Why am I
Evan
thinking
Engram,
that?
I gotcha. So this is why we're the dynamic duo, because we fill each other's, holes in our brains up. Evan Engram, he's been hurt almost every single year. The dude cannot stay healthy, but when he is in, he is a top 10 tight end. But like I said, you want consistency. You don't want that. I have no problem taking the risk on him because it's a tight end, but as far as running backs, wide receivers, you want that consistency factor. You don't want players who are constantly hurt, because when it comes time to it and you're versing players in the other teams in the playoffs, you want to have your full starting lineup. So I just think Darren Waller is a better choice there. But another thing, you mentioned why not take Julio. You can 100% take Julio, but with smarter players when they're actually drafting live, those players like Todd Gurley, David Johnson, who was just still here, they are going to get taken way earlier than their projection, because players who know fantasy know you have to have elite running backs. So I don't expect this to actually play out how it does because of that. Right now it's just going off rankings, so it's a little predictable.
Absolutely. Right here, see, there's a guy I'm looking at, and my cursor's on his name right now, Will Fuller. What are you thinking? Because, listen, the reason why I'm saying that is because DeAndre Hopkins is out of the building now. And when Will Fuller plays, he gets the production. He gets, they're usually long plays that he could get those bonuses for you if your league has those bonuses of like receptions over 50 yards. I've gotten more than plenty of bonuses because of Will Fuller, and I think that he's a very good option here. Juju is also a very, very good option. But yeah, as AJ Green is still on the board. Okay.
So this is exactly why I wanted to wait on wide receivers, because look at all these receivers right now.
Yeah.
The person you missed that actually is the best player right now on the board is Devante Parker. I don't know if you guys followed fantasy last year, but my God, the dude blew onto the scene. Top 10 wide receiver. I don't even think he was drafted in leagues last year.
Every year they said, this is the year that Devante Parker breaks out. This is the year Devante Parker. Are we taking him or AJ Green pick?
I personally would take Devante Parker here. He scored more than double of the guys you listed. I mean, listen, he literally was a top.
If this was my own draft, I would never take Devante Parker. I don't buy it. I don't buy the hype.
He put up 240 plus fantasy points last year, and right here personally, I'm taking Juju Smith-Schuster because Big Ben is back, baby, and Juju's a young, talented wide receiver. But I'm gonna let you make this pick. And
listen. I'm gonna pick AJ Green.
That's fine. That's fine with me, because when I look at our team,
I'm picking AJ Green is because I believe in Joe Burrow, man. I really believe in Joe Burrow. And AJ Green, first of all, AJ Green could have played at the end of last year. They sat him because they knew they were tanking for Joe Burrow. Okay. Now that they have Joe Burrow, with Andy Dalton, AJ Green was a top 5 fantasy option at receiver, guaranteed if they're both healthy. Now that he's had extra time to heal, and that Joe Burrow is now at the head of that offense, I have no reservation saying that AJ is going to be a huge sleeper if he falls this late in actual drafts. If he really does, that's incredible. And honestly, now I'm not too upset about not taking Julio Jones, because we have somebody on the bench like AJ Green, and if he performs up to his ceiling, that's a sleeping giant waiting to wake up, and that's exactly what I want to see in my backups. But
I mean, when it comes to the bench, dude, sometimes you got to get those high ceiling, low floor players. AJ Green, like you said, top 5 ceiling. His floor is he's out the whole season because he has turf toe for like the 100th time, But he will definitely be the staple in that offense with Tyler Boyd, So as far as a passing attack, if he's healthy, he's getting a lot of targets. Joe Burrow, he aired it out in college. Some of those other players that, are a little slept on right there is Brandon Cooks. I know you said Will Fuller. Will Fuller is constantly getting hurt, but Deshaun Watson loves his deep, speedy wide receivers. So Brandon Cooks would also be a fantastic option. You don't know necessarily what you'll get, but I mean, he has the speed, and he's not as hurt as Will Fuller.
Absolutely. Let me just cut in, but just because we're gonna come up on our pick, but talking strategy here, we've stocked up. We've got all of our starters in the tight end, wide receiver, and running back areas. We haven't touched kicker and defense, haven't touched quarterback, and we've still got 2 bench players that are, running back / receivers, that flex option. So going forward here now, because we have such a good core starters and solid depth already, now I'd be comfortable looking at what quarterbacks are available. And if there's not one that you're in love with, then guess what? You could keep stocking up on running backs and receivers. All right, So we have a few quarterbacks here. There's one that Andrew's going to pick.
This is a no-brainer.
I'm just going to go ahead and accept it because I'm with you there. Out of everybody on the board right now, how on earth is Drew Brees below Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield? That's ridiculous.
People that make these lists, I don't know how they get paid to do this, because Drew Brees is probably the best fantasy quarterback to ever live. Literally top 5 like every single year. And they added Emmanuel Sanders.
Played 11 games. Did they forget that part?
Yeah, literally, he outscored them playing 5 less games. But Drew Brees here is a fantastic pick. I mean, that is value. You already have 4 receivers on your team, 3 running backs, a tight end. If you can get Brees that late, you better go ahead and get him. You know, they upgraded that wide receiver spot alongside Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Drew Brees has never had a wide receiver too. I mean, that is just a deadly quarterback. And honestly, if you really wanted to double up just because Drew Brees is a little bit older, I'm going to let you go ahead and take that other quarterback that I know you're eyeballing.
I am not going to double up because I don't think that's a very smart strategy. If this was the real, if this was my real draft, I would, select Drew Brees or maybe wait even longer, and I would stock up even more on receivers and running backs. You can never, ever, ever, ever have enough receivers and running backs. And you never know in these rounds who is going to burst onto the scene and be the best in the league. It happens every single year. It could be Tevin Coleman. It could be Brandon Cooks. It could be Devontae Freeman. We have no idea who it's going to be this year.
I want to clip you just saying you can never have enough running backs and wide receivers ever, and just put that shit on repeat, man, because that is what wins you championships. You have the best running backs and wide receivers. I guarantee you're going to the championship every single time, hands down. Especially in a PPR league, man. I mean, it just values those players so much more compared to standard.
Absolutely. Who are you with right now, Will Fuller or Juju?
I'm going Juju. I think Juju is the better bet. A lot higher floor, and he has around the same potential for ceiling because until Will Fuller can stay healthy a full season, I'm not.
You're right about that. You're right about that. Will Fuller is hurt every year. I will take that advice. You are right about that. And, another thing that some players really get invested in and care about so much that I never pay attention to is the bye weeks. People are so concerned about having receivers on different bye weeks. I don't even look like that. Look at that. You get the best team available, you can stream someone that week. Like, if you just need to take a dip that 1 week, it's okay. It's okay. You know what I mean? You want the best team available for who's going to be there in the playoffs. Even if I'm looking at a guy that is suspended for like 8 games, but he's a great player, and I know I'm going to have him in the playoffs, I'm valuing him a lot higher than some other people might value him. I'm looking at that. I'm not at all looking at, where the bye weeks are. Is this guy going to play the full 16 games? If it's an injury, that's a different story. But if we're talking about a suspension, but he's going to come back, yeah, and we're talking about 2 different things here.
And man,
all right, so now we're in a position. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, when I'm looking at the players on the board right now, Marvin Jones, I know we're real Detroit Lions fans, but the fact that he's still here is just disrespectful. I mean, the dude is always a top 20 wide receiver, and to have him fall this far, it's just shame on you guys for ranking this man that far, okay? Throw my man some respect. And if he falls here, I got to tell you, we got to take Raheem Mostert, all right? That dude was averaging like 6 yards a carry. He was just kind of a do-all player until Matt Breida got hurt, and then they started sharing carries, and Mostert literally carried San Fran to the Super Bowl. If you watch that man play, he is freaking talented. There's a couple running backs here I would love to get. I would honestly go Mostert and then DeAndre Swift back to back. Your running back spot is loaded.
See, I don't know how loaded that really is, but just because of the fact that, listen, San Francisco is going to be a running back by committee. DeAndre Swift, he's clearly going to be in a running back by committee with Kerryon Johnson and all of the guys that they have back there, Bo Scarborough, Jason Huntley, Ty Johnson. It's just too many backs to feed. But you get a guy like this because guess what, man? The injury bugs hits out of nowhere. So you don't know if Matt Breida might get injured or Tevin Coleman or whoever's in their committee. And then guess what? You have a number 1 back. You know what I mean? Even with Latavius Murray. A lot of people see it as a handcuff, but really, if you get him late enough, and then, somebody like Kamara does go down, unfortunately, you have a top 10 running back now. So you got to take all of those things into consideration. So Mozart, I think he's a solid pick right here because we have so much depth at our running back and wide receiver positions.
And I know you said, it's a running back by committee, and that's what they did. San Fran was a top 3 run offense, but late in the season, when it came down to it, Mostert was getting all the carries. I mean, literally, he was averaging over 100 yards rushing. He was involved in the receiving game. The guy was a phenom, just absolute phenom, And so now you look at our running backs, and we got 4 real good running backs. What are you looking at here? Are you looking at a backup tight end?
Possibly, just because, Waller, when you're looking at a guy like Waller, he's only been in the league 1 year, or at least he's only had production 1 year. I'm not completely sure if he's a rookie or if this was his first year starting, but he came onto this. I keep saying he burst onto the scene, but listen, he did. He burst. Nobody knew where this guy came from, and he was killing it. So, are we on the clock right now? Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Very nice.
You can go with a backup tight end. There's not really somebody. There's somebody I'm looking at. I don't know.
I don't know if you're looking at a couple guys here. Yeah, I'm looking at Higbee, Hawkinson, and Gesicki.
I'm going to go with T.J. Hawkinson here for the sole purpose of I believe that the Lions are going to use their tight ends a lot more. And in the game that we did use Hawkinson a lot, he was a phenom and unstoppable. So if he can, not hurdle people and get concussions, then I think we have a great fantasy option there. And to have him as a backup, this might be his breakout year. He might come onto the scene and be a top 10, top 5 tight end. And you just got him this late in the game. So Another pick here, you can go with another running back, or you can go maybe backup receiver. I always personally, a lot of people might disagree with this, but my kicker and defense are my last 2 picks of the draft every single year. And the reason is that, defenses, you can probably get a defense with a good floor, but you can never truly predict how well a defense will be in fantasy. It changes every single year. You think the best defense ends up being a garbage defense, and a mediocre defense ends up being the best defense in the league. So really, it's a crap.
Yeah, I mean, it is really funny because every single year, if you look at it, if you watch the first couple weeks, I guarantee you that one team that you're like, man, this team keeps getting like 15, 20 points on defense. Like, let me pick them up. They always end up being a top 3 defense. Last year, it was San Francisco. San Fran came out of nowhere. The Patriots, like, who in the heck projected the Patriots to be the number 1 defense last year? If you did, I guarantee you you're from New England, because that is not a thing, So to pick them early and miss out on a good running back or wide receiver pick, or even a backup quarterback, the value is not there. So, like right here, I like having 2 quarterbacks on my roster, because I don't want to have the scraps. So I would 100% be looking at that backup.
So that is a good point. I wouldn't kill you. See.
I know,
me personally, I usually go into the league after post draft with 1 quarterback on the team, especially when you have somebody as strong as Drew Brees. If I had somebody, like a Lamar Jackson or something like that, where he's only had 1 year to prove himself, and even though it was so phenomenal, it's just 1 year at the end. So I'm comfortable just having Drew Brees there, not a backup, especially when there's guys like DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins on the board that, yes, they're going to be in committees, but these guys, you don't know how great they're going to be. These guys were, praised as some of the top running backs of the draft this year, and they were both drafted by high-powered offensive teams. So you can't go wrong here or getting a backup quarterback. But you know what? Let's go a backup quarterback. I'm sorry?
Sorry, I was going to say even Jonathan Taylor there. I mean, they have one of the top offensive lines, so if you went with him, that's not a bad pick either.
Absolutely. And honestly, there's only 1 quarterback here worth taking, and that is the GOAT. Matt Stafford.
I mean, if you don't already know, Matthew Stafford literally was on pace for 5,000 yards and
40
about 39, 40 touchdowns. The dude literally was playing above Deshaun Watson and those players last season. He was doing it very consistently. So hopefully in this offense with a little bit of a revamped offensive line, that he can continue that production. on top of bringing a very dynamic running back into the mix. So having him as a backup, and he was on pace to be a top 3 quarterback last year. I mean, your team right now is very deep. You know, when you look at a lot of rosters, they have a lot of skepticism about them. You know, that they could have a tight end that, you know, maybe had one good year, or they have a running back that, you know, he was injured all of last year, or there's so many variables. But when you look at our team, we have players that have the volume, players that are consistent, and players that are more proven. The only spot is the tight end position, but we backed it up with a second tight end, you know, that has a very high ceiling. So I'm very happy with what we're looking at.
All right, real quick, who are you taking at the defense? I would either go here with the Buccaneers or the Rams, but I'll let you pick, man. We got 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'd probably go with the Cowboys down there, or the Saints, if I'm being completely honest with you. Oh,
the Cowboys. All right, we're going the Cowboys. Go ahead. That's fine with me. Oh, dang it!
No. The reason I went to the Cowboys is because the Cowboys front seven is really good, and also Jamal Adams might possibly be going there. You know, you add a dynamic safety like that to the mix, and that could be a very, very explosive.
Where was the Cowboys? Where did you see the Cowboys?
I think I misread it, to be honest with you, but that's
your fault.
Yeah, it is. But the Buccaneers are a fantastic option. You know, the Buccaneers had a really good scoring defense last year, and you can't go wrong with them. You can't go wrong with the Saints. You know, they're all at the upper portions of, you know, the standings at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm very upset I just picked the Colts. I'm very happy this is a mock draft.
You can pop up after the draft and pick up the other team.
Right. And then kickers, listen, kickers, there's really only one way to evaluate kickers. Do you think that offense is going to score a lot of points? Great. You know, a lot of people think, you know, I got to get an offense that maybe scores a lot of field goals, or maybe like gets there but doesn't get there all the way. No, don't think that way, man, because listen, a team that scores a lot of field goals one year, that doesn't show how many field goals they're going to make the next year. It's really how can that offense get down the field, yes or no? So if that offense is good, yes, they can. If they're not good, no, they cannot. So when I'm looking at the offenses on here, I mean, I'm not very happy with them. Is my boy Matt Prater on here? My boy Matt Prater. You know, maybe somebody took him early on, but it's okay. I'm happy with honestly anybody at this point. I will be happy with.
There's two guys right here. I'm looking at Seattle's kicker. I'm looking at Houston's kicker. You know, very good quarterbacks to be able to drive them down the field. And if they don't finish, they don't finish. You kick a field goal. If they do finish, you still got a point with that PAT. You know, so you always go with the high-powered offense in this situation. That's why Gostkowski was such a good kicker for so long, and Vinatieri and those guys. So any high-powered offense kicker, and you usually have a top 10 player right there.
Right. So yeah, so I'm gonna go with Myers for sure, because Seattle, out of all of these, I mean Boswell with Big Ben back, whatever. I'll just go with Myers. It really doesn't matter. Kickers, I'm telling you, you could stream them. You could have a different one each week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roger Goodell. Best of luck to us. So, Andrew, how do you like our team, man? We picked Team 12. We didn't know how this was gonna go. This was our first mock draft. Hopefully, we're not embarrassing ourselves.
Honestly, when I look at it, we didn't talk about our rankings or anything going into this. And I know he went more with my picks. We agreed on a lot of them, but he went more primarily with my picks, you know, with when you said Will Fuller, things like that. I personally think right now we have two of the top 10 running backs in the entire league in Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook. James Conner, who can easily finish top 10 as long as he stays healthy. And then you literally just solidified your two starting running back spots and your flex. And then I look at the wide receiver. Yeah, there's some questions around T.Y. Hill and Jarvis Landry, but you went ahead and backed it up with A.J. Green, Devante Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster. All five of those guys have very, very high ceilings. Devante Parker, number one wide receiver over there. Juju Smith-Schuster, number one receiver. We grabbed T.Y. Hilton, number one receiver. A.J. Green, bona fide number one as long as he's healthy. So you went ahead and grabbed team's top talent, and that's what you want. You want those guys that get the targets, you know. And all of these players at one time or another were top 10 wide receivers in the league in fantasy. So not only do you have 2 of them in your starting lineup, but you have the potential to have 4 of like the top 15 receivers in the league. So I think this is a terrific draft. You know, even the quarterback spot, we drafted very late in terms of where we grabbed Brees, where we grabbed Stafford, and you have one player in Brees that has been a top 5, you know, quarterback by week for as long as I can remember. You know, and then you go ahead and grab Stafford, that was on pace to be a top 3 quarterback last year. I just think overall this team in a 12-man league especially just has way too much talent to fail.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that with the core that we started with, there was really no way we could fail unless we stopped stacking up on running backs and receivers, because no matter what kind of core of starters you have, you definitely have to back it up with those. It's really like, you know, we say high ceiling and then high floor, but it's really like these guys have to be starter quality with a ceiling to make them top 10. And that's the guys that we got. AJ Green, he's a starter. If he's healthy, he's a starter, guaranteed. Like, no way you're not putting him in your flex if he's starting and he's healthy. But he has the potential to be a top 5 receiver, and that goes for T.Y. Hilton. That goes for, you know, Jarvis Landry. That goes for all of these guys. They're all bona fide starters with the potential to be top 5, and that's really what you're looking for here. So to get this kind of team in a 12-team league, I would be ecstatic. It's great, you know, but, you know, it's harder, obviously, to get these big name guys as well when there are actual people in and not just the robots, because like you said, nobody's gonna let Todd Gurley fall that late. You know what I mean? Just based on his name, even if they draft him too early, it's because of him being the number 1 pick a few years back, right? Yeah. So there's nothing that could stop that, and we, you know, so really you gotta think about those things too. But the more mock drafts you do, the more practice you get under your belt, the more comfortable you're going to be making your picks in the live draft. And that's really what all of this is about. That's what mock drafts are about, and that's what watching these videos are about.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, is there anything you want to close with, Andrew, now that we got our team and we got our first mock draft under our belt?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say it's very situational. You know, we were pick 12, so we had the luxury of back-to-back picks, not having to worry about other people coming in and stealing our picks. But then we also had to reach on sometimes some of our picks because of the fact that we had to wait 20-plus turns to get our next guy. So you have to kind of take that into consideration, because when you're looking at those guys that are, you know, on your screen that are projected to go next, and you don't have a pick for 20 picks, you got to start scrolling, because I guarantee you they're not going to be there, you know. So to go ahead and get a solid core of 5 wide receivers, 5 running backs with very high ceilings, you know, that's how you win championships. You know, you can, like you've said, you can stream kickers, you can stream defenses, but go ahead and get that solid core, and I guarantee you, you know, you'll have a good team to start the season. Right.
And we made a video like a week back talking about where to pick your quarterback, and we followed that to a T. You don't pick them in the top 2 rounds because there are going to be comparable quarterbacks later on. So why would you pick something? And you can't start more than 1. So why would you pick something where you're just going to have them on the bench for a second quarterback I'm talking about? Or, you know, why would you pick somebody early on when you could get one of those upper echelon receivers, tight ends, or running backs that you can't get later on, but you can get a comparable quarterback later on? You know, you gotta follow it like that. You gotta look at it like a stock, man. High value. You buy low, you sell high, and that's how you look at trades as well. But hey, this was our first mock draft. We're gonna get through a lot of them before the start of the season. Me and Andrew end up doing like 50,000 mock drafts, so this is just the first one of many. You know, we did it at the 12th spot. We're gonna do it at the 1 spot. We're gonna do it at the 6th spot. We're gonna do it everywhere. And not just that, we'll talk about trades and just our strategies and what we do and how we win all these damn championships. So right. Let's go. We really need to just give the Lions some advice so that they could win one championship in our lifetime or something. But yeah, anyway, that's what we got for you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking us out. And if you're a real Detroit Lions fan, definitely hit that subscribe button, and make sure you go to our channels tab and see all the DSA members. Check them out too, because, you know, we're obviously going on the round table and stuff like that. So hey, go Lions, and, you know, Just go football. Let's get football back, man. I'm done with this quarantine stuff. Let's get football back so we can get some fantasy talk going.
Let's go.
All right, peace, everybody.